It was truly unjust. The scene opens on a room with two people inside. From one moment to the next, she found herself dragged into misfortune repeatedly. She felt like someone born into absolute misery. Even so, in the place where she remains, the sun occasionally shines, the wind blows, and flowers bloom for others. To her, it might be nothing more than ruins. The scene shifts to darkness as a voice says that an important guest will arrive tomorrow night, and she must prepare well. The following morning, a girl appears carrying a very heavy vase filled with plants. She thinks about how Madame Chian, who is in charge of the hall, fell ill today. The poor girl is seen sweating after setting the heavy pot down. 9 years have passed since she wrote her farewell until a week ago. This used to be her study, but decorated like this, it looks like an entirely different place. Exhausted, the girl sits down to rest. She thinks that there is still time until evening, and she should relax for a bit. Suddenly, a noise comes from behind the wall. Someone asks Li Yun how much time has passed. She recognizes the name Li Yun. Two men are chatting on the other side of the wall behind her. One confirms it has been a while, and asks if the other is visiting his parents. The man who just arrived says yes, explaining he stepped out for a moment to avoid the complaints at home. He is fed up with the constant lectures about marriage. He asks his friend if they haven't mentioned anything about marriage to him at his age. The other man, Anu, laughs and asks if he should even say it. Intrigued, the first man asks what exactly is going on. One of them smiles and mentions he might marry John Senji. The other asks if he is dating her. We see that John Senji is the girl who is unaware of their presence on the other side of the wall. She clenches her fist as the casual conversation continues. The man says they aren't dating, but it is something their families discuss habitually. The other man gets excited, noting that if their high school classmates found out, they would go crazy. He mentions that for half the boys in the neighborhood, John Senji was their first love. He asks if she is still incredibly beautiful. The man supposed to marry her asks if he is questioning the obvious. He says she is pretty, but that is all. He laughs with clear malice and calls her John Senji the cripple. These words hit the woman like a bucket of ice water. He asks honestly what else she has besides her body and her face. He mentions his mother firmly opposed it at first. The other man agrees it is logical for his mother to be worried. She tries to stand up from where she is sitting, wondering why she is here listening to all this trash. She begins to walk, and we see she has a slight limp. The girl thinks she was supposed to block the back area. She figures they forgot since Madame Chan is sick. She decides to do it before it's too late and before he arrives. At that moment, as she is leaving and thinking about the special guest, a man is standing near a column smoking. He also happens to be overhearing the entire conversation between the two men. A woman is surprised to see a stranger there. However, the men continue talking because the conversation is so interesting. One asks if he could sleep with Senji. He asks if she has paralysis in her lower body. A man says, not at all. He claims it is just her ankle, and from the waist up, she is completely perfect. The friend asks if he has tried her yet. He says not yet, but he will soon. The other expresses envy, saying she is very well proportioned. The man supposed to marry her says he will tell him what it's like after he tries her. Hearing all of this in the background, John Senji only wants to get away, but her limp betrays her. Just as she is about to fall, the stranger catches her. He asks her if the person they are talking about, that John Senji, is her. She simply pulls her hand away from his, gives a small bow, and tells him she must leave. The man can only stand there watching her. She approaches a very large house and calls for her grandmother. She says she is Senji from the main building's hall and that she was told to come. Opening a door, we see an elderly woman in traditional clothes and another very beautiful woman who seems to be from the city. The older woman tells Senji to present her respects. She introduces the guest as Mrs. Min Yeon Hui from the Younggu Company. The girl bows and offers a greeting. The lady simply stares at her while taking a sip of something. Senji continues, stating she is John Senji and will be assisting her starting today. This woman gets angry upon seeing the young girl, sets her tea on the table, and asks if she is the granddaughter she spoke of. The old woman confirms she is the second one. She explains that Ms. Chian is sick, so the family will also help in the annex. The woman continues, saying she is very pretty. She mentions the grandmother praised her so much she wasn't sure what to expect. She asks how her granddaughter can be so beautiful. The woman keeps talking, but her expression is quite strange. The old woman laughs and says it is too flattering. She asks how a country girl could compare to the lady. She then tells Senji to withdraw. Senji accepts and thinks to herself. She wonders how she could not know what is happening. The tea is already served on the table. Even the grandmother's expression looks as if she is waiting for something. She thinks the grandmother is about to say it. She believes the grandmother doesn't want her to disappoint the guest with her defective appearance. As she walks toward the exit, the grandmother says her granddaughter has a small disability in her leg, but is very skilled so she won't have trouble attending to the lady. The woman says it is a pity for such a beautiful young girl. She mentions she knows a good doctor and asks if she would like an introduction. While the old woman thanks her, Senji leaves the room. The grandmother calls out to her and approaches quickly. She grabs her face roughly and reminds her that she told her not to act recklessly. She scolds her and looks at her with hatred. She asks how she dares to wear makeup to receive such an important person. She takes out a handkerchief and begins rubbing her lips to remove the lipstick. She tells her to always remember with contempt that every breath she takes in this house comes from that family, she says. It will only be until Madame Qian recovers. She warns her not to do anything to bother the lady and to watch her behavior. As she leaves, she says it is dinner time and tells her to go to the secondary house. She instructs her to make sure the place is tidy while the guests are away so they can rest comfortably. Senji touches her lips and agrees. She walks toward the secondary house thinking about not upsetting the lady. She doesn't really want to get involved with those people anyway. Even without being pressured, she would have behaved carefully. The moment she opens the room, someone is changing. She apologizes and closes the door. She thinks she made a huge mistake. Since it is dinner time, she didn't realize someone was there. She feels she should have checked all this before. Still, he didn't seem surprised, so she hopes it is fine. When the person tells her to come in, she opens the door again and he is fully dressed. She apologizes upon seeing him. He looks at her and asks if she always enters without knocking first. She is very embarrassed and says she was told he had gone out for dinner, so she is very sorry. The man takes his coat and tells her she doesn't have to worry. He walks past her. She wonders why he is looking at her without saying anything. She finds it very uncomfortable. We see him start talking to someone outside about a conference. He asks if it is ready and says he will leave as soon as possible. She says she will leave, but he tells her no. He says before she goes, she must bring dinner to his room. Then he simply departs. The next morning we see an altar with incense as someone is praying. The voice begs the heavenly spirit to remove all obstacles from Taeon's path so he can find good support. It is the woman from the day before. She prays that he can receive the leadership of the Yoon Moon group without problems. At that moment, the woman turns around and shouts at her son who is busy in a corner of the room. She tells Taeon to come and dedicate some of his time as well. The man doesn't look at her and stays on his tablet. She says if anyone saw him, they would think she was the construction director. She says she knows he isn't happy with the current situation. She notes he just arrived in Korea and already looks trapped here. She asks how that wouldn't bother him. She continues complaining to her son while outside someone is carrying a tray. The woman continues, saying if it is the president's decision, there is nothing to be done. She tells him to consider it a good chance to rest. At that moment, someone interrupts and says she is Senji and is coming in. A man who hadn't paid attention to any of his mother's complaints suddenly looks up from his tablet. The girl enters and tells him she is bringing the cold water he requested. She looks to the side and thinks this guy is looking at her strangely again. She finds it very uncomfortable. She delivers what was requested to the lady who thanks her. The woman wants to start a conversation with Senji. She asks for her name and her age. She responds that she is 29. The woman asks if she has a boyfriend. She says no, she doesn't. The woman continues, saying that is a good age because she doesn't have one yet. The girl looks away and says she simply hasn't thought about it. The woman approaches her. She says of course she is still young and beautiful. She tells her she has nothing to worry about. She says she should do what she wants and marry when the right one comes along. She asks why one should complicate things with love and marriage. At this moment, the man in the corner starts laughing and agrees that it's true. His mother turns and asks why he is laughing. The man finally takes his attention off the tablet and looks at them. He says he even finds what she is saying funny. The woman starts scolding her son, saying she isn't saying it for the director. She says his case is totally different from this young lady's. She claims that to assume the leadership of the group, he needs someone strong by his side. She says she thought he was going to waste time in that corner, but he could take the opportunity to meet some candidates. She mentions she can organize it. The man stares at Senji and tells his mother yes. His mother gets excited because he finally gave the green light. She says that when he was alone, he rejected everyone because he was busy. She notes the president for some reason wants to do her this favor. She looks for something in the drawers and pulls it out. She tells the girl to take it to the lady. She asks if she only has to take the envelope. The woman explains these are the profiles of candidates for Director Jun. She tells her to ask for help seeing the compatibility with him. She wants to know who is the most compatible candidate. The girl accepts the errand, but the man keeps staring at her fixedly. His mother says it is time to go. While they both leave, the woman insists on the dates. She tells him he doesn't have to waste much time. She asks that they don't dread on at all. She says if he finds someone he likes, he should move forward immediately. He simply accepts. The woman wonders if he is interested in the dates or if he is distracted by something else. The woman begins to press him. She asks if it's true that the girl from before is beautiful. She says she has a special air. She notes she draws attention everywhere she goes. She asks if he is attracted to that girl. He stops for a moment, laughs and asks his mother if she can get him something in particular. He makes a request. The woman asks if he is being exaggerated. The man simply tells his mother she looks very tired and walks away from her. He thinks to himself that if he really liked that woman, referring to Senji, he would just seduce her. He knows she is very beautiful, but he won't waste time on nonsense or become a jerk over it. Senji is walking with a huge basket of clothes, thinking she is nervous and a bit tired. She delivered the documents to her grandmother, so only the cleaning remains. She thinks she will finish cleaning and go back to her room. When she arrives at the secondary house, she finally knocks to ask if anyone is there. When she hears no answer, she says it seems there is no one. She thinks she is lucky and enters. She feels she must finish tidying things up quickly. When she looks in a corner, she sees the dinner is still there from last night. She starts to get irritated. She wonders why he asked her to bring food if he wasn't going to eat it. She thinks it has been too much. She remembers the first time she saw him. She thinks for someone born having everything, ordering a person around means nothing. She removes the plates. She thinks that man doesn't stop looking at her strangely. Even when he was with the lady, he kept looking at her. She feels he didn't even try to hide it. The situation is making her so uncomfortable, but she decides it doesn't matter. Although meeting is inevitable, she thinks it is best not to get involved. After all, he will leave and soon meet someone else. She remembers all the profiles she had to take to her grandmother. She is fixing the bed when she sees a particular box. Something comes to her mind. She remembers Madame Chalin once told her that some guests who come to these houses also use them for clandestine encounters. Now she knows exactly what that box is for. She says it's natural for him to do it since he has no family, but even with separate residences, his mother isn't far away. She wonders how he can do such a thing being so close to his mother. She ties a trash bag while blushing deeply. The director arrives at his room and someone is waiting for him. The person hands him a coffee and asks why he is there. The man with the coffees says it seems he is cleaning the room, so he had to wait outside. The man looks at his coffee and sees someone leaving his room. It is the same girl he hasn't stopped watching. She simply wants to look away. The new person there introduces himself as the director's assistant and says he is enchanted to meet her. This man is quite friendly. She simply says the cleaning is finished and they can go inside to talk. The director calls out her name, John Senji. She turns around hearing her boss's voice. He hands her the coffee and tells her to take it. But at that moment, Senji remembers the box she saw in his room. She thinks of him as someone completely shameless and says she is fine. She gives a bow and says she is leaving. She almost runs from the place. He just stares as she goes. He repeats her words about being fine and leaving. He begins to drink the coffee. He wonders what she is so afraid of. He asks himself what he did to make her even quieter than yesterday. When he enters his room, he notices the box and laughs. He thinks it must be his mother's doing and that she surely saw it before. He calls for Secretary King from inside the room. The man enters smiling and says yes. The boss asks what this is.